What's going on, traders? I'm Antoine Farrar, and it is Tuesday. So, if you've been following our channel, you know at Digital Goats Academy, today is our market forecast, which we basically give our bias on what the market is going to do for the entire week. Now, conditions may vary based off of news or any other reaction that may trigger, like, a different bias in the market. But I will say, at Digital Ghost Academy, we've been pretty correct, this past year. So we have 2 days until we go into 2026. So what we're going to be doing is just discussing the pairs that, we're looking at in 2026. Obviously, that watch list may grow, but this is what we're starting off going into the new year, which we've been already taking advantage of. So I don't expect not too many changes from what we're predicting already, right? So let me go ahead and pull up my screen. If you are new to this channel, go ahead and hit that like button, comment, and subscribe. But also, if you are new to this channel, you know that, well, we've been covering indices, but now we pretty much widen our watch list where we're discussing Forex pairs as well. So let me go ahead and share my screen. Now, for some of the newer traders, if you are like new to trading, this platform is TradingView. So this isn't where I execute my trades. I execute my trades on TradeLocker through my broker, Hero FX. But this is the platform where you could do your homework on, you know what I'm saying? So this helps you prepare for the market. What's cool now is that with TradeLocker, if you are familiar with that trading platform, is that it's basically has like the TradingView interface integrated in it. So that's cool, but I still like to do my homework separate from my broker and then, add that information on my broker. So this actually isn't what I wanted to discuss first, which was US 30. I wanted to discuss USD JPY. So the dollar's been giving us some trouble this past year. I'll be honest and say that, as far as my bias has been getting changed based off of how the market's been reacting. I have been looking at it from a higher time frame, so that's kind of what we're mapping out now going into 2026. It's like looking at the higher time frame, what could the market do, and then we prepare ourselves as we go into like Q2, Q3, Q4, so forth. Well, obviously that's it, but you get the gist, right? So we're going to focus on USD JPY. That's the United States dollar versus Japanese yen. Obviously, at least one indice, which primarily would be US 30. And we're actually going to look into cryptocurrency because I do believe that we may have a major sell coming in 2026, and then we could take advantage of it for the buy. So just looking at like how the entire crypto space is moving right now. Not that it's such a negative, but I see opportunity. Definitely the market has to pull back, and we're going to take advantage of that if it gives us what we're looking at. So USD JPY, you look at it on a daily time frame. Now I want to point something out real quick, and that is using EMAs. I definitely recommend to like at least have the 21 or what's the other one that people use? I forgot. There was one that I used that basically graphs the whole trend. You know what I'm saying? So that's probably the most important EMA in my personal opinion. Other traders may say different, but I think that's the most important EMA is to have the one that follows the flow of the trend because this is kind of telling you how the market is moving overall, right? Now, if it crosses that on a higher time frame, because you're going to see it react on a higher time frame, that's why it's important. So, for example, yesterday. This is what happened yesterday. Was this yesterday? Tuesday, Monday. Yeah. So we were buying UJ since last week, right? I think last Friday. Where are we at? Yeah, once we had this spike up. And then we had this push down. Yeah. So we were buying UJ since, yeah, last week, like I said. So it spiked up and then it actually retraced to this previous high right here. Now, again, you want to get like more adept to spotting dojis because on the higher time frame, those are normally where the market is trying to pull back to, whether it's a buy or a sell. When you see it, when the market actually gives you the data, what ends up happening is that you look to the left and you're like, oh snap, that's a doji. So normally when you're looking on the higher time frame, and again, this is like I wouldn't say this is concrete information to go off of, but it happens more than it doesn't happen. You know what I'm saying? So that's why I even have it like annotated with the circles that I was looking at the market to possibly come back to what is this? A previous high, the most recent high where the market got like the most aggressive. Yes, there's a high below here, but this is where we're at currently, and the fact that the market has, struggle to break lower, I'm looking at it to buy up, and I do think that we're still buying up. So we finally got the move that we were looking for. To well, kind of, sort of, man. The market's still been struggling because again, we're going into the new year, but we're setting ourselves up for a possible opportunity going into like 2026, where it's like you kind of got a hands-free trade until it hits our target and the market shows you something different or a level of resistance. But we're looking at UJ to buy up, right? Now, this was a trade that I gave out to my community, so you can kind of see my parameters right here. Obviously, YouTube, you'll be able to see my parameters. So, if you want to take this, definitely at your own discretion, but just look at the numbers and make sure where the market is at currently. But I'm very confident that we're buying up. There's a lot of inflation talk still with the dollar, right? There was recession talk, but I think we're out of that window and you're starting to see things like commodities start to shoot back up. So if you look at US oil is starting to shoot back up. Not to mention, I could probably discuss this later, but pay attention to your surroundings. I think I mentioned that on one of my calls where like a lot of the stuff that's implemented into the market or where you can take advantage of, it's happening in front of your eyes. I'll give you one example. Uh, I'm on the East Coast, so I'm seeing a lot of Murray's gas stations. I don't know if that's like nationwide, but if you do know that what that is, I haven't seen it as like a big franchise, but more and more are starting to be put up as far as like your regular gas stations. So if you go and look at their stock, that may, you may be able to take advantage of that. Now, that wasn't, dealing with foreign exchange. That's more towards the stock market. But again, seeing that a stock is rising, we should expect that what else is going to rise? Indices are going to rise. Something to that effect. There is something in the market where it's like you could take it from the economy and correlate it to actually making money within the market. Don't blow your brains, thinking about that, but it's true, right? So, today we got our first bull candle that we were looking for. Now, what I wanted to point out is that when you look at the EMA, look how the EMA has been, what do we want to say? Supporting the market. You know what I'm saying? If it was above, we'd have been saying it's resisting the market. It's supporting this move up. Now, let's keep it simple. Where is, oh, turning it into a line chart, right? So we know that there's like wicks here because, this was a candlestick form, but we look at structure. How the market creates structure is through the line chart. You know what I'm saying? So when you're looking at the line chart, that's going to be how you correctly identify what you need in the market. You turn to a line chart after you go through the candlestick and you're like, oh, okay, the market is doing XYZ. So we've seen this where, we have hills, valleys, where anytime we see that or any time of like support window, I mean, support structure that the market is giving us or resistance structure that the market is giving us, we can see it on a line chart and see that it reacts in that way. So what do we have right here, all right? I know it's gonna add. Oh no, it's not. I forgot. So I'm drawing this line to show that this was the lowest point. You can say that it tests that high, but we can constitute this whole move as support, right? These are two times that the market touched around this price zone. It wasn't exact, but around this price zone. Now, we don't know if it's, true support yet. We would need the market to continue buying up, but we were already looking for the market to buy up because it already dipped down twice. So the fact that we got this information, one, on a daily time frame, and then you can see it clear as day when you look at the line chart. All we need to start doing is what? Scaling in, get a little bit more data and see if the market makes sense to us. Now, I already got annotations that I did based off of what the market was doing since Sunday. So you can see it pushed up, sold off, actually pushed up again. What was this, yesterday? Yeah, pushed up again, sold off last night. Now, again, this is our stop loss. So if we look at where the lowest point it came down to, 19 pips within our stop loss. This is like a 70 pip stop. So 19 pips within our stop loss. This was kind of like my first indication that price was creating like support. That's why I said support made on the hour. Scale down to the hour. The reason why I did support, because at first I was looking at the consolidation. Remember, price loves what? Like testing consolidation, some form. So pay attention to that because the market moves three ways. Most people are just looking for up and down instead of like what it's doing when the market is moving sideways or how it reacts to a sideways move. So consolidation is a sideways move. The market broke out of this. We can see that it tested this area. If you look over here on this candle, this bull candle, and then slide back to what happened around 11 a.m. That's where pretty much I said support was made, but I had a different notation here basically saying that is this a test of the consolidation? Yes, what the market do last night? It popped back up and then it tested even lower. You know what I'm saying? Like basically wiping out anybody that identified this area because it was kind of clear as day and it dropped down. And we've seen this before with like we've done the grocery store concept, and we'll discuss that later. I don't want to get too far off topic, right? So we can see that bulls are trying to be in the market, right? Yes, we have our spread open right now because it is 511, so the market's not really gaining any momentum until it opens back up. But we are going into the trading session for UJ, which would be the yen, which would be the Tokyo session or Asian session, whatever you want to say, at 7 p.m. Eastern time, right? So that should give us some more momentum, even though the New York session is closed and the dollar, so the dollar doesn't have really any strength besides what was left over from how it reacted today. So we just got to see, is the yen weaker than the dollar still? Is it going to get weaker during its stronger market session, right? So you can see like this was our entry around like 156, 230. So we're clearly above that. The spread is open right now. Like I said, this trade is actually live right now or active, like within my community. So I'm still bullish. You know, we're moving sideways. I'm still bullish. To me, this is like the market accumulating orders. You can see that it's trying to make support, like even as price went down even lower, you know what I'm saying? So we have support right here, support right here, support right here. What could we have? Another pullback to the entry or a little bit lower to confirm or validate this buy back up. But we'll just have to see how the market reacts. Like I said, it's the end of the year, so don't expect a lot of volatility from the market. I'll be surprised if we get even any strong moves to the upside. But us being in position, that sets us, up for the move for next year, which is like in 2 days. So, you know what I'm saying? So I'm still bullish on UJ. Let's actually look at the dollar real quick. See if it gained. What is this? The 1 hour? 26, 29, 30. So today the dollar got bullish, the DXY. Look what it looks like. It's been at a low point, so again, make it make sense by turning it to a line chart. That's consolidation over there. You can even say that it has support that it made right here, and then price is trying to push up. See the significance of the EMA. If this line chart does push through that EMA, what more than likely is the market telling us that we've basically reversed. So if we start seeing the DXY get bullish, obviously you should see that influence the behavior of pairs like UJ or GBP, USD. I don't know indices so much, but we'll factor that in if we see how the market reacts. But I just follow mainly how indices should be moving. I don't try to correlate it with like the dollar or anything else because I feel like that's how you get your head bust open. But anyway, let's go ahead and look at Bitcoin. Now, I was looking at Bitcoin to actually continue pushing down. So you'll see I got a lot of notations on here on how I was expecting like Bitcoin to react. So this is 4 hour time frame, and what I've identified or what I believe I've identified is a bearish flag pattern, right? Very common within cryptocurrency, like very common to be honest, yo. Like in 2020, between like 2019, 2021, all you had to do was draw this like one of these patterns and the market will react like that. It was actually pretty insane. So from what I've seen in my experience that uh cryptocurrency, it goes off of, strong bull patterns or, I mean, bullish flag patterns or bearish flag patterns. Right here looks like a bearish flag pattern, right? Potentially. Now, I don't have the graph or I don't have like a visual to show you, but just look it up, on your own. And what's supposed to happen is that this is signifying the end of the trend, right? So it should continue, but basically this pattern is letting you know this is the end of the downtrend, right? Now, because we're on a higher time frame, like you can really see it on like I think the daily. Yeah, you can really see it on the daily. We're gonna play to that because by the time we go on the weekly, it doesn't really show that visual that we want to see anymore. You see, it shows it like consolidating, which is cool. It's still showing what we want to see, but as far as like the pattern that we're identifying, we need to be able to see it on the daily. That's probably the highest time frame you can see it that it matches up on the daily. So what we should expect is that after price is done with it, like after it's done testing like within the pattern, which you can see that I annotated two touches, which I believe to be price rejecting like the buy up and trying to force down. Now, I'm not saying that like cryptocurrency is about to crash, but just look at pairs like XRP right now. It was at $3 for its high and it's back at like $1.80, which we could see it back at $1 flat. You know what I'm saying? That would be a better buy zone for investors. You got to start thinking like the investor. Like an investor is not trying to buy it like when it's high up. Now, things like gold, that's a little bit di different because they had influences. So these were probably like early investors that been had their money in there. But cryptocurrency, like, yes, it's going to probably do phenomenal still, but we still have a long way to go. So it still opens up opportunities for new investors to basically pump up that revenue. You know what I'm saying? So not to get too, like I said, I don't want to get too like preachy or like far left. But what I'm looking at is that we have a pattern that we believe we've identified. So all we can do is just wait and see how the market reacts, if it respects like our idea for this pattern, and then just basically start to follow the trend. And I'm not necessarily like yeah, you can take like a couple of moves off of it, but like I said, it's a little bit more riskier when you're trading cryptocurrency. We're really looking for it on the investing, but if it does give us like a clear sign of like a sell opportunity or even like a short-term buy, I'll take it. You know what I'm saying? Like it really hasn't been hurting people like it used to. It used to be wild. It's a little bit more clear cut right now. So what we're looking at is two touches, which you go back to your fundamentals of trading even when you look at cryptocurrency. Two touches mean what? Two touches are basically well, basically respecting structure. So the fact that the market pushed down from here twice, hasn't come up yet, shot up earlier today, but still pushed the market back down. I'm thinking this is our two touches to create resistance. So I think this is our resistance zone, and the market should start showing us like lower highs and then like a strong break and then who knows what's going to happen from there. But, if I just had to kind of speculate, we don't guess, we analyze for sure. We just be surprised that the market moves with, our predictions, right? So I would probably say that one, we need to make sure that price doesn't try to create support at 74K. That would be like my first target, but all the way through, I can see like Bitcoin coming all the way back down to like 50K flat. Um, that being its lowest, but anywhere within like this zone of like 65 to 50K, that's really what I'm aiming for. That'll put us back in like a better buy position. And then I think that'll be the last chance investors get like the investor that's not investing right now, that's going to invest in the future, but not taking advantage of low prices right now. So we can take advantage of the sells when price gives it to us, but I definitely would say be careful. The only thing I'm eyeing for is to actually like be on the investing side when it does come low. So I do hope that it comes to like 50K and we can take advantage of it. Like it's still new to investors. So with the possibility of going up to 700K, like one of these analysts off of Bloomberg said, yeah, I could fucking see that, but it definitely has to respect the foundations of the market. So just don't make a mistake, being greedy, you know what I mean? Like take your sells or, even if you buy back up, but I would definitely say that, if you invested pretty high up, yeah, you're probably feeling that. You know what I'm saying? If you thought that Bitcoin was going to take off from like 100K, like you're probably definitely feeling like the brunt of that. So make no mistake, it could get worse, So I'm just putting that out there, not like a doomsday message, but I see that as a good thing. Who wouldn't want to be able to invest in lower if I know I already invested higher? That's just how the game works. But again, let's not get too far off topic. And last but not least, we're gonna stick to one indices today, which is obviously my favorite, US 30. Now, US 30. We did very well, like I said, this year. We did very well with US 30. My overall prediction was to 50K. We came short of that. We did not hit 50K. And I don't see price getting extremely bullish. I'll be surprised, like, but I don't see price getting extremely bullish. These next 2 days before like the end of the year going into like the new year. I think this was the move for this entire year as far as like the buy. Remember we discussed this on our last video where price starts to build resistance. So not to look too far into the future, but I am looking at this just like we saw two touches. I am looking at this area to be resistance before the market breaks down. Gives us like lower entries for us to buy back up. And then again, like probably like Q2, Q3, we'll get an opportunity to buy up again. Um, it could be as early as March or it could be as late as September. So we just got to see where we're at by the time February, March comes, and then we'll kind of, reassess from there. But I am looking at indices to sell off. So as you can see, I was already one major news that we had, one major news outlet that was dropped this week was that Warren Buffett is pretty much retiring. And what's crazy is that one of my friends asked me, he was like, "So what is he like retiring from? Is he retiring from like investing? Like how like how can you retire from investing?" But he doesn't know that he's managed other people's portfolios too. So I get it, and that's a not a negative thing, but that's a big hit, you know what I'm saying? In the investing space for like investors who probably trusted him. That's like, well, who am I going to invest with now? Pulling their money out. These things, they're not necessarily a negative reaction, but they do play a factor into the market. So we take advantage of that information. You know what I'm saying? And the first sign we saw was that US 30 started falling off. Now, obviously, he was, I think, like a heavier S&P investor, but we can see S&P start to show those signs as well, just to kind of peek at it. But US 30. Yeah, we hit this resistance area. This was the better one that I was looking at. Because we're going to focus on Black Bull because my broker really lines up well with Black Bull as far as like their numbers and movement. So that's who we're going to stick with going into 2026 when we identify indices. But I already have an area up here. This was like a resistance zone that I created. Uh, when was this? Is this just a line or is this a zone that I made? This is just a line. Okay, so yeah, I had a line up here that I drew. I think this was like on the hour time frame. Price broke above it, sold off, and then now we returned lower too. Higher high, lower high. Our first sequence of what we kind of need for a downtrend, especially since when you look at it on the higher time frame, it's already respected, you know what I'm saying? Itself to create resistance. Not to mention patterns. Look at this. This is possibly a what? Evening star pattern. If you don't know this stuff, you need to brush up on your patterns. This stuff assists traders. Don't think this is just mumbo jumbo. I know a lot of it's not going to be the answer to everything, but in situations where you're just minding your business, analyzing the charts, and it's like, oh shit, I think I see. You know what I'm saying? And then it already reacts off of it. You should know the move. Okay, I just have to find my entry. You know what I'm saying? I know the move, but I got to find my entry. Let me not get too preachy on y'all before 2026 comes through. Because when 2026 comes through, I'm definitely getting preachy. We should know better at this point, yo, including me. You know what I'm saying? I'll make my mistakes, but We do the best we can, but stuff like this, that's like elementary at this point. You just need to brush up or study or, again, I have this concept when it comes to even working out. You need to add more of what you don't have and omit less of what you're already doing. You know what I'm saying? So obviously just add more of like learning about the patterns and stuff. Make no mistake, we're going to be providing that in digital goals. But I'm saying in the meantime, there's information all over about trading. So it's like even if you're not tuning into us, like you can tune into somebody or find some type of piece of resource, like paperback or something that gives these visuals and an explanation behind it. Again, we'll be doing that in Digital Goats Academy, but I'm just saying. So, yeah, we created resistance. I like this for possible resistance and the fact that the market has been reacting like this. We closed still bearish, lower than Monday's candle, so that was a good sign. We just have to see how Wednesday is going to react. If Wednesday is going to try to BS us by testing up here, because there is imbalance, right? But this is on a higher time frame, so we should really believe that the market is like still respecting this move. And I think that once we get like the market opening back up at like after 5, at 6 p.m., we'll, have a little bit more clarity on what's going on. If it gaps down, I definitely think that we're pushing down because the only thing that I think that we might do is like test it part way and then bring the market down heavy. But if this candle is like trying to get bullish, we should expect it to probably test like a percentage or a portion of this imbalanced candle. Let me see. Oops. So I'm scaling down because this is the high into the low of it on the daily time frame, but I want to see what these areas are when I break it down to like the smaller time frame. So we have imbalance right there. Now, this is where you don't want to get too like trying to predict the pullback. I've beaten myself up a lot of times trying to do that. Identify what's going on, let the market tell you what's going to happen. You know what I'm saying? You're still going to make a mistake, but being a little bit more patient instead of trying to say, oh, well, what you should expect is like, oh, for it to come back up here and then possibly, you know what I'm saying? I'm not saying that that's like, you read that out, but just not to be confused, one, like, let's keep it simple, right? Let's break this down, what just happened just in this area. Like, we start from where the market is at, and then we go, in reverse, right? So obviously there's a gap up. Well, obviously we're starting right here, right? We can see that this is consolidation. What form of consolidation is this? I'm obviously going to answer this, but I want you to think real quick. It's consolidation moving downward, right? So this is one of the three forms of consolidation that we've seen before where, a lot of traders don't pay attention to it for whatever reason because they just think consolidation is a sideways move. So one of the like they only think that the market is moving like this when it does consolidation. You know what I'm saying? Like, no, that's not the case. And I thought that at once. So we can have an upward form, but we've seen that based off of bearish flag patterns or bullish flag patterns. This is not a bullish or bearish flag pattern right now. This is just consolidation. I'm sure there's some pattern that this is probably called, but I'm just identifying it as simply or keeping it as simple as possible. This is consolidation moving downward. You know what I'm saying? So we can see that it's moving downward. We should have no choice but to believe because of the move prior that the market is going to try to continue pushing down. You know what I'm saying? Sellers are in right now, right? Now, if we snake back up, we can see that, okay, we have lows up here that the market did break. That validates what? The sell. But do we have a pullback? We don't always have to have a pullback at the highest point. We just need a pullback that validates we are selling. And for me, when I see consolidation after a move, I normally respect that as that's the pullback. You know what I'm saying? But even if you just started tracing back from this high, okay, let's see what this high shows us. Let's trace it back. Let me get rid of the Fibonacci tool, right? And let's make this plain Jane. All right. So you're like, okay, well, you drew a zone and you drew it back based off of this high right here, right? Now, let me turn it to a candlestick. Oh, snap. That is so crazy. I didn't even know it was going to do that though. But that is so fucking crazy that I just drew a zone at a form of structure that I saw that I'm covering the wick, and I can see that the wick bounced off of this area. You can validate this as a low as long as price is still moving in that direction, right? Don't get like crazy where it's like, oh man, it might want to come back. It might, you know what I'm saying? But as far as right now, we're seeing the market do what? Move in a downward sequence. I mean, you're seeing lower highs being made, and you can scale down even lower if you want to make yourself comfortable. You know what I'm saying? Scale down as low as you need to make yourself feel comfortable to not, but also not to confuse yourself because keeping it at a line chart, you can see that even in these movements, we're creating lower highs until the market decides if it wanted to just shoot up, maybe create resistance up here. That's a possibility, but let's stay with what the trend is showing us right now. We've already validated on the daily time frame that we're selling. You see what I'm saying? We have 2 points of contact on the daily time frame. We have a form of a pattern, a candlestick pattern that's being presented to us on a daily time frame. The only thing we need to make sure is that is the market still selling off from here, or is it trying to pull back like a percentage of this day to sell off? We'll see. We'll see going until tomorrow. But if anything, I think that we'll get a push down, and then maybe later we'll get like price try to push back up here to sell off. But I still think that we're selling. I think that we're sellers are in to try to cool off the market because we're so high. So obviously new investors want to get into the market. And I think that, like I said, at the lowest point, I think we can travel 44K. You know what I'm saying? Like at the lowest point. At the lowest, I think 40 flat, but that I might be like overshooting that. So we'll look at the market to come anywhere in the area of 45K to 50K for US 30 before like we start saying that, oh man, it can come lower. But obviously we want to see it react this way. Nothing is validated yet, but that's my bias for the week. I know that was a lot because we're trying to prepare ourselves for 2026. So I definitely wanted to be as detailed as possible. And, I probably went over my normal time that, nah, 30 minutes, that's actually good. That was a lot covered in 30 minutes. So I think that was appropriate. So definitely make sure you prepare yourself for 2026 traders, yo. I'll be right with you, you know what I'm saying, along the way for some of you guys' new journey or your journey that you've been taking. 2025 was amazing. So do we have another? Trying to think today's. So yeah, we'll do live trading tomorrow, and then tomorrow will be our last trading day for 2025. So I hope y'all are excited. I hope everybody gained value this year. It ain't a goodbye, make no mistake, but I hope everybody gained value this year with Digital Goats Academy because we did the damn thing. I just have to tip my hat to myself on that one in my community. Like we did the damn thing. So if you've been supporting the community, I definitely thank you, man. See you guys in 2026 for the ones that I'm not going to be able to see. Everybody, Happy New Year. Make sure you be safe out there, and I'll catch you on the next video of Digital Goats Academy. This is Antoine Farrell signing off. Peace.